Hey, it's Jade welcoming you to another one of the Currents virtual sessions. And today I'm so happy because Ondara is joining us. And the new album from Ondara is called Folk and Roll Volume 1 Tales of Isolation. It's out now. It just came out on May 29th. So, Ondara, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So, where are you right now? Where in the
In
world?
Minneapolis, actually. I'm in Minneapolis,
Oh,
actually, at the moment. Yeah, I don't think traveling is, a thing that people are doing a lot right now. So I've just been sort of hunkered down here for a while. But yeah, I think I'm starting to get a bit anxious and craving some motion.
yeah, that'll happen, especially with winter right around the corner. I feel like you need to get out, spread your wings, take some walks outside before
I
winter
know.
overtakes us. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
an entire tour that you did for Tales of America. That one came out February of 2019. So you traveled all around for pretty much the whole year. And then your second album comes out May 29th. That is a really quick turnaround. And I'm kind of
Mm.
curious about that album. And it is Tales of Isolation. So was it all written in quarantine? Did you like set up shop somewhere and do it?
Right. Yeah. So I left the tour, which was canceled. It was canceled right before I was going to play Excel, which is really sad. I've been looking forward to play that venue for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I ended up spending a couple weeks in isolation, and just woke up one morning and spent like 3 days. Basically vomiting these songs is what it felt like. It was just like I needed a release of sort, and so I just wrote the songs really quick and recorded them in like 3 days. And um, it wasn't really meant to be an album. Really, it was meant to be like a therapy for me. Just something I needed to put out there to aid my mental health. But then I recorded them and I shared them with my team, and they quickly decided that it needed to be a record, and so we sort of decided to just put it out, very quickly without doing too much promotion for it. Yeah, so it was very sort of spur in the moment, sudden album.
I think that was necessary. I mean, for us here at the station, when we got the music, it felt exactly like somebody else was in your exact situation and able to explain it to you. And I know there were other musicians kind of working on that and doing the same sort of thing, releasing single songs. But I think it is, as a non-musician, just an enjoyer of music, that's one of the greatest things about this time period is that you can connect with the artist and you can share sort of the same world experiences together so quickly. And kudos to you and your crew for being able to pull it together and release it so quickly. And speaking of releasing something quickly, you worked on a video project with this album. And
Right.
I would love to hear about it. I was reading that it's this communication of human spirit across oceans and
Right.
across cultures. And can you kind of
Yeah.
explain a little bit more of your thought behind that?
Right. Yeah. I suppose I was thinking about ways to have a sort of communion of spirit, as you put it, with people from all across oceans. Especially since everyone was locked in their houses, and I couldn't really make traditional music videos for this record. And so it felt as though just trying to find a way to collaborate with people from really all continents. We ended up finding very talented creators and directors from cities all through all the continents, and just sort of traded ideas. And they basically made this a series of videos for every song on the record, and it was, a very inspiring thing for me to see that people could still work together in that fashion despite the general polarized nature of the current world.
Yeah, being able to collaborate. Was it a collaboration, or did they just get your song and then had to kind of take and extrapolate from that, or was it you working with each of these artists?
It was definitely a collaboration. So I had a general idea of what I wanted each video to look like. And so the folks in my team reached out to their contacts in all these places around the world, and would try to get ideas from directors. And once we found a director we liked, we'd sort of go back and forth with stretching out the script and making sure it feels cohesive with not just the rest of the videos, but also with the song in itself. So it was a very collaborative effort, which was great for me, since I've never been that great at collaborating per se. But it was great to be able to do that. Yeah.
Well, you can watch those videos on YouTube right now on Ondara's channel. But we are lucky enough to have gotten some music beforehand, some recorded music that you sent us. So let's check out a live version of Pulled Out of the Market. This is off the new album Folk and Roll Volume 1, Tales of Isolation. It's Ondara with a virtual session on The Current.
I've been pulled out of the market. Oh, I'm an academy worker. I'm an academy worker. I've been pulled out of the market. I've been pulled out of the market. Oh, I am a retail worker. I've been pulled out of the market. I'm not an essential worker. I'm not an essential worker. Honey, the restaurant's closed and all the birds around. I haven't seen you in your clothes for a little bit of time. Every Tuesday we went to Chinatown before it was all closed down. I'm gonna put my gray suit on. If you will put your red dress on, I'm gonna meet you at the dining table. I'm gonna meet you at the dining table. I need a president's seat. We gon' be here for a while. Your parents out in a bay, they're still in denial. Don't know how long it will be, but until then you're still mine. I'm gonna put my gray suit on. If you will put your red dress on, I'm gonna meet you at the dining table. I'm gonna meet you at the dining table. I'm gonna put my gray suit on. You will put your red dress on. I'm gonna meet you at the dining table. I'm gonna
That was Lockdown on Date Night Tuesday, a live virtual session with Ondara. And yes, those great videos that you were just watching, those were a collaborative project with artists all across the world with Ondara. And again, you can find those on his YouTube channel. Uh, can I say that I've always been really touched by your optimism and your positivity for humanity, and that really seems to be a part of this project. It feels like a way of giving hope. And was that something you needed for yourself to find some sort of positivity for yourself out of all of this isolation, or was that just something that's just part of your nature?
I suppose it's a bit of both. I've definitely been I'm definitely an optimist, sometimes to a fault. um, and I also I needed that record personally, and I wrote some of those songs for people that I knew who I thought needed those songs as well, because I think what one thing that this pandemic did is it kind of reduced all of us to our bare human spirits, because we were all sort of suffering from the same kind of threat, everyone from all around the world, and so there's a strange kind of unity in that, even in the face of the general desperation of the situation, right? Knowing that everyone from around the world is facing this threat in essentially the same way, and so that record was meant to be something that everyone can be able to relate to, and myself included. So yeah.
There on your last album, you mentioned this series of paintings from Thomas Cole, and how that was a big inspiration for you, that sort of visual aspect. And I saw that you had been reading Carl Sagan's The Demon Hunted World back in April, and I wondered if that influenced you at all on this, or if there was some visual aspect that you were turning to while you were sort of at home, writing down this catharsis piece of work, or cathartic piece of work. Was there some influences outside that were kind of guiding you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm continually inspired by Carl Sagan. I'm such a big Carl Sagan fan, and I think perhaps I draw my optimism from Carl Sagan. Perhaps, I don't know. Carl Sagan has a way of sort of reducing you, to showing how we're just specks in a globe, a pale blue dot in a vast universe, and there's a lot of humility that comes with that. It shows how we I think get lost in our heads too much, when we're just vessels running around in a globe in a vast universe, and if we just focused on within, we could find more things to unite over than to fight over. So I think that spirit of unity that I get from a lot of Carl Sagan's work has inspired me a lot in, I think, everything that I do. And other paintings, obviously, you mentioned Thomas Cole. I mean, since I came to America, I've been very fascinated by those paintings of Thomas Cole, because I always thought they were done in the 1800s, but they almost in a way foreshadow what current America is, or where it's headed. Well, it seems that way. I'd like to hope that that's not the case, because in those paintings, it doesn't really end well at all. It ends quite terribly. But it's strange how art can foreshadow things like that. I was I could see what Thomas was trying to say while observing America from outside and looking at these paintings. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the course of empire. So that's also something that I think will continuously inspire me for all the records I make. Thomas Cole and Carl Sagan.
That is really interesting. It is the giant extremeness of Carl Sagan making you feel comforted in the fact that you're just a piece of the whole of this kind of beautiful universe.
A ball of
and
water.
then yeah. And
Yeah.
and then there's Thomas Cole, and if you haven't seen the series of paintings, I suggest Googling them or going to a museum and trying to track them down. But it does kind of show nature, and then the buildings that come in, and humanity coming in, and what happens with human nature. And it does feel like there was, besides the pandemic and all of us experiencing something together, that time to contemplate ourselves really shook up everything, and people are really being forced to kind of come to terms with themselves and who they are and what sort of legacy they want to lead. And there's a lot to be grappled with, I think, in this year, and art really helps with that. Have you? Yeah, how have you felt about the world at large and kind of seeing things, especially as you've lived in Minnesota for a while now, but still having lived in other places, giving you sort of an outside lens to things that are happening. Have you seen anything and had some thoughts that you've been reflecting on?
Sure. I mean, I think from traveling a lot, and from growing up in in Kenya, which in third world essentially, and having spent quite a lot of time now in America, not as much as my time back home, but enough to get some kind of idea of what America is. What I tend to see mostly is that I think if it's easy to sort of decry and demonize the Western civilization when you haven't been anywhere that's not the West, right? When you've been other places that are not the Western civilization, where ideals of freedom are not as celebrated as they are here, then you know that there is a lot of value in the Western civilization and in what it has achieved. And there's a reason why I came here. There's a reason why people keep wanting to come to the West. Now that doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean there isn't work to be done. There's always room for improvement, right? But I think I think we have to be very careful as to really discern the things that need improvement and improve on those things, and not just demonize the whole Western civilization on the premise that it's evil or it doesn't work. And I mean, I see how one would arrive at that position if you haven't been anywhere else, or in places where you couldn't really protest, as we've been doing recently, and still go home in the evening, get shot. You couldn't say anything bad about your political leaders. You couldn't have a show on national television and say anything bad about your politicians, because you get arrested or imprisoned or killed. Or you couldn't be gay, or or in this sort of, or queer, because you might get killed, or you might get thrown in prison. So all that to say that there is a lot of value in what the Western civilization has become. There is an obvious reason why people move to the West, and so I think it's sort of it's just I don't, it's when we demonize the whole thing and say, well, the West doesn't work, let's destroy the whole system. That cannot be. That just it's a departure from reality if you've been anywhere else. And of course, I have to qualify that by saying that that obviously does not mean complacency. It just means having very rigorous discourse, extremely rigorous discourse on what are the things that need to be improved, what are the things that are not working, why are they not working, what exactly can we do to improve upon them. So, right, in that's my rough assessment from being around the world, I'd say.
I appreciate it. As always, I appreciate your point of view, and I look forward to listening to more of that and that optimistic. I mean, that is still, I think, asking for rigorous conversations and contemplating our surroundings is a positive way to approach any sort of topic. So, thank
Right.
you very much. And I want to ask on a lighter note before we hear one last
Yes.
song here. Um, I know that you've been touring quite a bit. Like I said, you toured pretty much all last year, and there's been a lot of talk about Save Our Stages and the
Mhm.
spirit of these independent music venues and of all these stages all across the world. Is there one that you would love to play again right now?
Please say that again. I think I lost. We.
Yeah, no problem. So, of all the stages
Yeah.
that you've played, is there one
Mhm.
that you have a specific memory tied to, or that was such a lovely venue or show that you could go back there and play it right now?
Oh, that's it's a great question and a difficult one as well. I mean, I do have a hometown bias for First Avenue, so and I will be there in a few weeks to film something for some festival. It's just I don't know. Minneapolis is one of my spiritual homes. It's has been, always will be, and First Avenue, it's where it all began for me. Really, was that current show that you guys had me on a couple of years ago, and things kind of took off after that. And it was so great to come back last year and headline my own sold out show. And I'm desperately craving that hometown energy, and I hope we can get back to that soon enough.
Yeah, me too. Well, I want to see you back on that stage. But until then, we'll have to just enjoy some of the new music. So, again, this was a previously recorded live song from the new album, Folk and Roll, Volume 1, Tales of Isolation. This is Pyramid Justice live from Ondara on the current virtual session.
You've got your coat, you've got your tie, you've got your sock and your belt's real tight. There is a new suit going around the world, and it fits just right. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a socialist. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a feminist. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a scientist. Pyramid justice. Only when the suit fits. You look so pretty, you look so fly. Your brand new suit is something to spy. First caught my scent, then caught my eye. Never been seen a groundbreaking style. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a socialist. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a feminist. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a scientist. Pyramid justice. Only when the suit fits. When the suit starts wearing out and the colors fading out, when the tatters in our pockets have started piling up, when the suit starts wearing out and the colors fading out, you will lose again your sight of what's wrong, what's right. You will lose again your sight of what's wrong and what's right. You will lose again your sight of what's wrong, what's right. You will lose again your sight of what's wrong, what's right, 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 what's right. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a socialist. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a feminist. Oh, when the suit fits, you're a scientist. Pyramid justice. Only when the suit fits. 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 Only when the suit fits.
And that was a live song, well, I guess previously recorded song from Ondara here on the Currents virtual session. And I just want to say that this has been so lovely. Thank you for your music. And like I said, hopefully we'll see each other here in Minnesota sometime soon. And yeah, any big things in the work besides this, going and recording something at First Avenue? Can you tell us any more about that, or is this sort of to be released soon?
Yeah, well, I think it's part of a festival thing that is being coordinated around the States. in independent venues. So I think that's what that is. But I mean, other than that, I'm working on album 3. I already had a different album recorded, but I've started adding more things onto it, and I'll be actually at Parkidom this weekend to do some work on it. So hopefully in the next few months there'll be a new album coming in.
Wow. Well, good luck with all of that, and we'll see you soon. And Ondara's new album, Tales of Isolation, is out now, so you can get your hands all over that. And a huge thank you to Ondara for joining us today. Thanks also to our technical producers, Jesse and Derek, and thanks to our engineer, Veronica. And thank you so much for joining us, and check back for the next Current Virtual Session.